are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports War. And we are back. We got the full crew in the house. That is what it's all about. The Yankees, out of any team in the league, are the best equipped to handle a blow like this.
I think there is a higher power at play here. He's due law of averages. That dude is the ultimate scrub. It's trash. Yeah. Every person you have in there is fucking trash.
Next game, you're going to see a big performance. You can see it in the end of the game, and I'm just totally stoked and excited for this.
And we are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Port here on a Wednesday. And today we have the Barnes and Zach show. Tony on the mend but recovering. So obviously we wish him a speedy recovery and can't wait to see him back here soon. How you doing, Zach?
Doing good. How about you?
Pretty good. Other than the debacle that we saw from the Rangers yesterday, which we'll get to in a little bit, but just so much going on this time of year. So much to talk about today. Excited to get into the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, which is going to start tomorrow. Just as well as the other NHL games and some baseball and football news, but just kind of wanted to first kind of do potpourri, just kind of recap with you since you've last been here, stuff that's kind of gone on. The biggest thing obviously was Championship Sunday last week.
Yep.
What was your thoughts there? The Eagles blowing out the Commanders, and then the Chiefs, like they always do, winning a tight one to get to their third straight Super Bowl.
I kind of expected this. I was really rooting for the Bills. I wanted Josh to get one and finally get past Mahomes, but this is what Mahomes does. He just wins. And honestly, especially this year, he didn't really put up any insane stats or anything, but he just finds ways to win. And I was really rooting for the Bills, but at the same time, it's like, you had the ball, you had a chance to put that game away, and just didn't go that way. So, I wasn't really shocked by that. I was honestly expected a great game, and that's what we got. So I was happy about that. And then the Eagles, I feel like that kind of went to plan. That was a blowout, but I didn't expect the Commanders to really do much. They put up a fight early, but you can't stop the running game with them. So yeah.
Well, especially their run defense. But I thought one thing, and again, maybe it wouldn't have mattered at all, but it just sent the wrong message kicking that field goal on the first drive after you had already converted 2 fourth downs, knowing your defense is going to have some struggles. I just thought that was a bad job, and it just kind of, even though everything has just been so positive this year with the Commanders and this quick transformation from pretty much a laughingstock of the league to, a playoff team overnight, just almost makes you think about Dan Quinn and decisions, and obviously the last time in the Super Bowl against the Falcons. But were you really surprised to see that?
Yeah, to be honest, like you said, given the drive that they had, they went for it twice already. It's like, you're playing a team that literally the next play came out and boom, touchdown. So it's like, you've got to capitalize when you're down in the red zone. Because the Eagles are just too explosive with the running game. So yeah, I was. And once again, it sucks because, like you said, they had such a good run, but you're not going to beat the Eagles at their own game. So
yeah, and I think bright future ahead. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is at the forefront of it, but I think my strategy there, the offseason, sure, you could use, maybe an upgrade at the running back position, maybe another receiver, but I think the focus has to just be building as good of a defense as you possibly can, because it would have been a completely different game. And then, it takes that pressure off the offense that they were feeling every single time, watching Saquon streak down the sidelines. And, you even had Shipley get a big run in there. I mean, there was just absolutely nothing. I mean, that defense, just leaking like a sieve against the Eagles. So quite tremendous too, just what a run that they've been on. I'm just trying to think, even since I've been watching football, I don't remember ever a team getting to the Super Bowl where it was just like the run game was the focus of the offense. I actually really can't. And my first Super Bowl I remember was 98. And I know, Terrell Davis was a big part of that, but the passing was strong. But the fact that you prefer to run. I really don't remember that like in modern times.
Yeah, I mean, especially too, like with the talent that they have at wide receiver, like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are great wide receivers. So it's not like they're, they have an inability to throw the ball. They just don't because they
Yeah,
don't have to. I mean,
right.
the running game is just it's awesome with, when you have a dual threat like that with Hurts and Barkley. So yeah, me neither. Not in my lifetime, especially because it's really a pass first league. So yeah, I mean, I can't recall anybody who's played like that and made it to a Super Bowl. So yeah,
Yeah, it's really just quite the story, especially from a team that you felt like down the stretch, last season was broken, and there's even questions about Sirianni possibly getting let go. And here they are in their second Super Bowl in 3 years. And then on the other side of things, with the Bills and the Chiefs, it's funny because as they always do, because we get it, everybody is just fatigued, with the Chiefs and they don't want to see them there and they want to see something else. But kind of speaking to what you said, and I know, there was some debate about the simultaneous possession on that one ball. And
yeah,
as well as the Allen, fourth down that they didn't, confirm on or, overturn for the challenge. But I don't even, and I know those are big plays, especially that, simultaneous possession. But just the fact too, that you had multiple times, I just go back to that fourth down that Kincaid, can't get his arms around that pass. And then also the fact defensively, those were basic plays that the Chiefs were running, and almost that you would be expecting them. I don't know if they were just like thinking like, oh, maybe they just don't want to risk passing. They're just going to run it. And like they were just wide open on those running back cross routes. So that's what I really look at more so than like the refs. But you do get the sense like that just so many people feel like that's the reason why. But I just see it as the Bills, once again, especially against the Chiefs, just not executing in crunch time.
yeah, I agree with you too. I think a lot of people are so quick to blame the refs, and yes, I mean, I wouldn't leave anything up to interpretation with the refs when you're
Yeah.
playing the Chiefs because the Chiefs get calls. I mean, that's true. I understand that, but at the same time, that can't be the whole basis of your argument to the reason why the Bills lost. The Bills lost because of like what you said. They didn't execute on certain plays and their defense got carved up. So I mean, it sucks because Josh played a great game, but there's really nothing that you can do when it's a shootout like that. It's really just who's gonna make the bigger play when it matters. So yeah,
And with them, because they're almost in a similar spot to the Commanders, other than they're good at their running back position. Maybe they need a wide receiver upgrade, but it does seem like Allen prefers to spread the ball around, and he's enjoying playing more like that than
yeah.
when he had to be focused on Diggs all the time. But then it's like the biggest thing would be the defense. But do you feel that would help a lot in terms of the Chiefs, or is it just like a mental hurdle that they need to clear to finally get past them?
I think if they got another wide receiver, I mean, a star wide receiver, I'm sure that would be great for them. It's great for any offense, but at the same time, I really do think it's mental because you saw it with Allen. Like the first two drives, I mean, he was shaking, like he looked
Yeah,
scared.
he
Like
did. Yeah.
so, I mean, I think it's a mental battle with the Chiefs, and I think a lot of teams play them in big spots like this, and they kind of just lay down because they're like so in their head about playing them, especially in Arrowhead too. So I think half of it is really mental and the other half is executing. So yeah, I mean, another wide receiver would be great, but honestly, I think that really wasn't the biggest issue because I mean, Allen had a great year. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like it'd be great, but like it can't break up the locker room like Diggs did. So yeah,
Yeah, and one thing, and again, I guess it's just that he likes to just not focus on one guy. But the one thing I was surprised about is how Cooper like wasn't really featured or
yeah.
used the way everyone anticipated when he came over to the Bills.
Yeah, I feel like the last few weeks, honestly, it's been like he's really not done much. So, yeah, and that trade was to kind of bolster the wide receiver room. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. He wasn't really used that much the past few games. So, yeah, I mean, it would have helped if he was, but honestly, I really don't think that their offense played a bad game. Like I said, I just think it was a shootout and they lost the shootout again. Like if I feel
Yeah.
like I watched the same game over and over again when they play each other, because it's just that same style of who's going to make the bigger play. So, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the big thing there on that fourth down, and obviously everyone kind of thought, Kincaid could have caught that pass, was just the fact that Spagnuolo, dialed it up and the pressure was there. So it's
Yeah.
not like you felt like if Allen had time there,
Yeah.
he probably hits him or hits somebody else. But he was just under so much duress. It just made it difficult. And that kind of, leads me into kind of my thoughts for the Super Bowl now. We've seen very few teams. I think I went through it. It's like 19 games the Eagles have played with Barkley in the lineup, and it's like maybe 5 times he was under 100 yards, 2 times he was like at 80 and 90 yards. So very rare that the opposition, has stopped them. But I just kind of feel like the Chiefs, if anybody was going to stop them, it would be their defense.
Yeah.
A lot of veterans, obviously led by Chris Jones, and then Spagnuolo at defensive coordinator. So that's just kind of my thought. If anybody has a chance, it would be them. You're giving them extra time to prepare. They're going to look over all the film, what happens on these, these big runs that he has. And I think, just like we saw on that first touchdown run he had against the Commanders, where bad tackling, just not quick enough reaction time.
Yeah.
And I think that's something they can handle. So my thought is going into this game that, it's going to be a close down to the wire. And obviously when it's a game like that, I mean, it's hard to not envision, Mahomes getting the job done. But when you look at this matchup, what are you seeing for the Super Bowl?
I think, like you said, it's really just going to come down to if they can stop the run. And if they do stop the run early, are the Eagles going to just let it fly and start passing the ball and kind of, not totally abandon their game plan, but at the same time, like kind of adapt, because the Chiefs are going to bring pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they did last week. So I just think, like, it's very, like you said, it's very hard to not see Mahomes just getting it done, because I mean, until he doesn't, I'm always going to put my money on him, because it's just, it's just the way he is. But yeah, I think that a lot of people are selling this game short because it's not the game that they maybe wanted to see, but I think it will be a close game down to the wire. But it's really just going to come down to if the Chiefs can stop the run, they're probably going to get the job done.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I mean, last game was close; it was 1 possession, so I'm expecting nothing, different there. Maybe lower scoring this time around, but that remains to be seen. Now, what are your thoughts of what have we've seen, with the hiring cycles? Glenn getting named, and I know you kind of wanted them for the Saints, and we saw the press conference. Obviously, a lot of passion, a lot of confidence. And then they go with Moogie as the GM. Just in terms of that, do you feel like the Jets got it right there so far? I mean, I know there's it's hard to tell at this point, but just from what you've seen.
Yeah, I think it's hard to tell because you got to go out and play. But I mean, I do like the leadership that he has, and I also like that he really is just going to handle the Rodgers situation the way he's going to handle it, and Woody is kind of letting him handle it the way that he decides to. And just also, like, in terms of Rodgers, like, I feel like he treated it like this is a team. This is not just about Aaron's decision going into next year. We have a whole team to account for here, and a group of guys to kind of turn around and put in the right direction. So I think the leadership is there for sure, and I think it's a great hire for them. And if Woody can step back and allow him to, just have more control over the team, I think that they can start to go in the right direction, because the thing with the Jets is, like, the talent is there. Like, everyone knows that. It's just the leadership has been a mess over the past couple of years. So if they can, kind of all sort of get on the same page, I think it could be, beneficial for them. And I think that he's the first step in doing that for sure. So
Yeah, and I was kind of talking about this with Mike yesterday, but yeah, I think Aaron Glenn will get the best out of these guys. And even I think they're talking, I don't know if it's sure, they did hire Wilkes as defensive coordinator, but that maybe Wilkes will just be the play caller so Glenn can focus on the overall responsibilities as a head coach.
Yeah.
And I just feel like in terms of coaching, I think people get confused sometimes because you're not calling plays as a head coach. That means that you don't have impact on the players. But I think it's the exact opposite. And especially if somebody like Sauce Gardner comes to mind, a guy that was so highly regarded after his rookie year, last 2 has not had that strong reputation, and there's some doubt there. And I just feel like if anybody is going to get the best out of a cornerback specifically, because because he played the position. It's going to be Aaron Glenn. So that is one angle that I do like, getting the most out of this defense, because let's face it, I mean, last year they were really mediocre, and it was a far cry from what everyone anticipated going into the year.
Yeah, and I think that, a lot of people are like really kind of not happy with the fact that they didn't go out and get somebody more like offensively minded. But I think like you said, let Glenn be responsible for the defense and be that leader that they need. And like Sauce is somebody who comes to mind for sure that kind of has slowly fallen off a little bit, but I don't think it's anything. I mean, yeah, I guess, it's sort of his fault, but at the same time, with everything going on, I think there's a lot of players that I can pick out on the Jets who just need a change in leadership and a new direction. And I think it'll benefit them greatly because they're all still super young, and it's not like, it's all over for them. So they just need that change. So I just think that it's a great hire for sure. And I just think going forward that, they should focus on the team aspect of things as opposed to Rodgers, because it clearly didn't benefit them, especially defensively.
Right.
Coming off of a good year that they had 2 years ago now, to go into this year and kind of not live up to those expectations to take it to the next level. So yeah,
and it's interesting too. I don't know if you saw at the press conference, they were non-committal about Rodgers, said they'll have discussions, but didn't kind of say one way or the other. And the narrative has changed so much on local radio between no way he's coming back. Now it's like more of the sense like, oh, well, because of the dead cap situation, I think what it is it would be like around a $50 million dead cap that they could space out the next 2 years if he's traded or released, or it's a $63 million cap hit for next season, but they could restructure the deal. And just that because of all that dead cap money, and then you'd have to get a veteran quarterback unless you're going to go with Tyrod Taylor and Jordan Travis and maybe draft someone, that'll end up resulting in, them keeping Rodgers. And I flip-flop this, myself. But what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that their preference is probably to keep him as long as like everybody's on the same page? Because Glenn isn't going to lay down the way Saleh did.
Yeah, and I think like you said, it's really just dependent on who's coaching, because that changes the entire dynamic. But I think I would be okay with him coming back for another year, but it would have to be under the basis of like, you need to be on the same page with everybody. You need to show up to camp. You need to show up to practices. Like, you can't be pulling the shit that you were pulling last year, because it's just, especially in New York, you just can't do that. The whole dynamic of the team changes. So I just think that I would be okay with it. Give him one more chance with this current, with this team and this current leadership, and see how it goes. But other than that, like, if it doesn't work out, you got to cut your losses going into the next year. But I would be okay with it. Just give him one more chance, because I mean, the injury process and everything, like even this year, you could tell, I mean, an Achilles injury is tough to come back from. And it honestly takes more time than people think to just, be good to go. So I think, going into this year, it would be another chance to kind of see if he still has it, if he's still that dynamic quarterback. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess you would think, if Rodgers, who seems like he has trouble, respecting others, if there's anybody who's going to respect, you think it would be Glenn. So overall, I'm happy with the hire. And it's interesting too, there's been some rumors of who they're thinking about for offensive coordinator. One guy's like the passing coordinator, tight ends coach for the Rams. But they haven't decided on that. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that, they need to figure out if Rodgers is going to come back first. And that's why they're doing that. But, so far so good, but obviously, it's going to need to be a good offseason, a good draft. And I guess, so it's Nick Caley. And I just want to see here. Oh, so no Nick Caley. Okay. So let me just see here. So they're saying that Tanner Engstrand is the odds-on favorite. So he's the Lions passing game coordinator. So obviously it makes sense, both being on the Lions together. And he was teammates with new Jets general manager Darren Moogly. And let's see, he was on the Lions staff since 2020. and the passing game coordinator was from 22. So he's learned from Ben Johnson. Obviously, there's some inexperience there, and we saw that come back to bite. With I think it's Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt. He was the Jets offensive coordinator a few years ago. Didn't work out first time in that role. But do you think just because if that is what they do there, he's comfortable with Glenn, he's learned from Ben Johnson, that makes sense, or do you think that they should go, more with an experienced name there at OC?
I honestly wouldn't mind that, just given the fact, like, if it would be different if they didn't have that relationship there and there wasn't like a prior kind of tie to, like, coaching together. I think it would be kind of tough to just throw him into that role, but I think because of that, I think it isn't a bad hire. And also, you got to start somewhere with these coordinators, and if Glenn feels that, he's worked up to that point where he can be an OC, I'd say give him a shot. So.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. The Cowboys end up naming Schottenheimer head coach, talking about multiple Super Bowls with Dak. Definitely has been the subject to many punchlines, Jerry, all of that. What was your thoughts on that hire?
Honestly, I don't want to label it a good or a bad hire yet, because I really don't know how it's going to go. But I think, like, you're the Cowboys, your fans expect a splash hire. They don't expect somebody like this. And, I was watching the presser, and it seems like Jerry's giving him full backing. So, I mean, if he really believes in him, I guess that's the way they want to go. But everything I've heard from people I know who are Cowboys fans, nobody's happy about this. So, I mean, I don't know. I think a part of it, like I said, is expecting, a bigger hire. How are we going to change things from, McCarthy? So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to label it good or bad yet, because I really don't know how it's going to go. But, it doesn't look like a great hire, just given the fact that they could have went out and got somebody a little bit more, knowledgeable as a head coach. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's a veteran coordinator. His dad was, Marty Schottenheimer. Yeah. But yeah, he just, hasn't really been in contention for a head coaching job in a while. It was even here with the Jets, as an OC, and then, most recently with the Cowboys. And wasn't calling plays, because they had McCarthy doing that the last 2 years after Kellen Moore left. So it'll be interesting to see, how that situation plays out, what the rebuilding plan is there. A lot of thought about, maybe they try to get Genty in the draft. Jerry loves his running back. Schottenheimer loves to run the ball. So be interesting to see how that works out, as well as Dak coming off, that hamstring injury, how he's going to play. So a lot of question marks in Dallas. And speaking of Kellen Moore, looks like he's the front runner now for the Saints job. I guess McCarthy's out of the running. What are your thoughts about that?
I think I'd be all right with that. I think, like, especially since, he's gone to Philly, things have changed. Like, my perspective on him has changed. I think when he was in Dallas, a lot of people gave him a hard time because obviously the results weren't there in the playoffs. But I would be all right with that. I think I think that's what we need right now. We need somebody who's younger, who can kind of change the culture a little bit of how we do things, especially offensively. So I think that I really wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know how it would go, just given the fact that, the Eagles are very run heavy and we're kind of more of a balanced team. I don't know how he would implement his offense into ours, especially with Kubiak and how they would work together. But I think I really wouldn't be opposed to it. I was kind of against McCarthy, so this is kind of like a welcomed change to me. Yeah.
And I feel like, too, a lot of people, they focus on the running, with Moore's offense. But I feel like if you think back to it, I mean, when he was in Dallas, I mean, sure, they ran the ball a lot, but they also passed pretty good. I mean, Dak always had good passing numbers. So I think they could have a balanced offense. My question would just be, I mean, who the hell is going to be the quarterback? Does it seem like Carr is out the door?
Or? Not really, because I just think Mickey Loomis is the type of GM where he's going to just see the investment through. And I just don't think that they really are going to go out and go draft somebody. I would love it if they did, but I just don't see it. I think they're going to give Carr another chance. It's hard because I would like them to kind of jump ship now, but they're probably not going to. And so, honestly, if that's the case, if they remain with Carr, I guess I don't want to tank though. That's the thing is like people are like, oh, well, just keep Carr and then tank for a better QB class. But like you can't guarantee your draft pick next year. Like so, if we can
Right.
make a change now, I prefer we make a change because we still have a lot of talent on the team, especially offensively. So I just don't want to waste these guys more than we already have. So yeah.
And you think maybe there's just a thought that like more can fix Carr, or
Well, yeah, this is the thing is like I
can be a
feel
thought but not a reality.
yeah, and I just feel like we already said this about Kubiak because that first 2 weeks was like we were on cloud nine and everybody
Right.
was like, "Oh, he did it. He's fixed everything." But then you face adversity with injuries and we really got thumped by injuries for sure
Yeah.
this year. But I mean, you face adversity and the thing with Carr is I'll never question how hard he plays. He has played through multiple injuries for us, and really taken it on the chin, but that doesn't transfer over to being a starter, unfortunately. So I don't really know if he could fix Carr. I think Carr is kind of at this point he's what he is.
Right.
He's been in the league for almost 10 years now. So I just think that, you know, I would just like to move on. Honestly, I really enjoyed what Rattler did this year. And honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to them giving him a chance as a starter this coming year. And if it doesn't work out, you can always cut your losses. We haven't invested all this time and money into him. But I just think he presents a more dynamic option for us on the offense as opposed to Carr, who's kind of, he's got heavy feet in the pocket and he can extend plays, but I feel like Rattler is like fits more of the modern NFL, especially if we had a new head coach coming in. I think it would be great to just start fresh, but that's just me. So
Yeah, no, exactly. It'll be interesting. I mean, you would think that they would also draft somebody as well, just to kind of
yeah,
give themselves an option. But it just seems like so much time has passed by since Drew Brees retired, and it's just been constant in uncertainty. And it was interesting too, like when Jameis was there, it seemed like he almost didn't get a full chance. And I mean, I guess it just because as we've seen his career kind of go up in smoke here. With the Browns getting benched for Dorian Thompson Robinson and
yeah,
just the picks. I guess that's why. But it is going to be interesting for sure. But I definitely agree with you. Carr, it just seems like you're going to be mired in mediocrity.
yeah.
But if you give yourself a chance with a rookie and that would probably be the best case is to get rid of him and then draft somebody, but then say, Rattler, you're going to be the starter for now. And then kind of just see how he plays, from that point on.
Yeah, and I the reason I say Rattler is because honestly, I just in my lifetime, we've never drafted a quarterback
Right.
that has, panned out to be like even like a successor to Breeze or a first round quarterback either. So, I'm always just operating under the mindset we're going to draft at another position and then we'll figure it out. So, I would love it if we drafted somebody, but if we don't, I would go with Rattler. Because of the reasons I stated. I just think Carr is, he's reached his ceiling in the NFL. And he's like I said, plays very hard, but that doesn't transfer over to wins. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and kind of like what you said, the offensive talent is there with Kamara and Olave.
Yeah.
So there are guys there. So be interesting to see what they do. And in a division too that I think is getting better. The Bucks with Baker, that's been a renaissance. The Falcons appear to be an ascending team. I mean, I think it just depends on how Michael Penix develops. And then Bryce Young did improve, but this year is definitely like everything's on the line for him. Second year with Dave Canales. Because I think like too. I don't know what you thought about this. Like, I thought he improved, but to me, it went from like complete embarrassment, definitely going to be a bust, to like just barely passable. But because it's an improvement, there's this thought process with Canales that it's just going to keep trending upward.
Yeah, I think that it's great. I mean, you're competing, and that was the first step to at least compete because it, like you said, it was total embarrassment the season prior. And it really was going into this year too, but they kind of turned it around midway through and started competing. Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, this is the year for him to prove it. But also, I mean, With him, I just don't know. Like, I don't think they've put a lot of talent around him. I mean, it's really hard to be drafted into one of these franchises that's just horrible and be expected to save everything. So I've always had a little bit of sympathy for him in that respect because, like I said, they really didn't put a lot of talent around him offensively. Now they have a few good guys. They have Leggett and Hubbard, who I thought had great seasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just think that, yeah, it's really going to just come down to how he does this coming year. And he definitely made an improvement, but competing, it's not. It's the same thing with Carr. It's like, yeah, you're competing, you're playing hard, but that's not transferring over to wins. So
yeah, exactly. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they do there. And Canales did work, did really good work with Baker. So I think they're hoping that that's the case, and they really mortgaged their whole future there with all those draft picks they traded to get up to that position. So going to be interesting to see how that works out. And I guess really the only other thing I saw here, which was kind of surprising because he's been out for a while, but you see Chuck Pagano is going to be a senior secondary coach for the Ravens. I guess that's where he was prior to becoming the Colts head coach. But I had seen him on Pat McAfee a lot, and I had no inclination that he was going to make a return to coaching.
I didn't either.
4-year retirement.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I mean, I always thought he was a good coach, and honestly, I haven't really been thinking about him because he's been out of the league for a while. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I guess they had struggled with their pass defense. So kind of interesting. I mean, it just seemed like for as long as I could remember, the Baltimore Ravens have had one of the best defenses in the league, and it just some things went wrong the last couple of years. But despite, I feel like having still bigger names, it's just interesting to see if they're going to be able to kind of rebuild that. I mean, do you think though that it's just execution, or do you feel like they don't have like the same talent that they once did?
The Ravens as a team, or just
defensively?
Yeah, I just think it comes down to execution, because I know they were labeled a weak defense in the beginning of the year.
Improved a little bit,
but they did improve towards the end of the year. So I really just think it comes down to execution. That Bills game was a shootout. I mean, it really, both defenses sort of got carved up. So I just think it comes down to being a little bit better in bigger games. But I don't think that they're a bad defense by any stretch. They're definitely better than a lot of the mediocre defenses in the league, but they definitely could use more talent to get to that next level and help Lamar out a little bit. But yeah,
because I mean, you look at it. I mean, Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the game. Kyle Vanoy, did kind of have a rebound season. He's been around forever. Started with the Patriots, of course. Roquan Smith, another veteran who's performed at a high level, and Marlon Humphrey as well. So it's kind of interesting too, because usually the offense was the question mark there, but I kind of think offensively they're set. Because Zay Flowers will be coming back. Obviously, Mark Andrews, despite that drop, did have a rebound season. After people were questioning, maybe he's done. We know about Henry. And Hill even did a good job, out of the backfield. Maybe they want to get another receiver, because I mean, you got Bateman and Aguilar, but I thought Bateman played better last year. Aguilar, I've never understood how he sticks around. Like, talk about a bust, right?
I don't know. It's kind of crazy that he's been able to stick around this long, but I don't know. Their offense is not. They could go get another wide receiver if they really wanted to, but I just don't think offensively that's the issue.
Yeah,
it's definitely more defensively. I mean, especially this year, I felt like their offense was honestly, top 2, top 3 in the league. So yeah.
I mean, Lamar had the best season of his career. So, going to be interesting for sure. And I don't think they're going to make a move, but you do feel like one of these years where, they have an early exit like they did this past season. Harbaugh has been there so long. It's been so long since they've got over the hump that eventually they would say, it's time to a new voice. And it's like, it's not that he's not a good coach, but I just feel like you have the same, it's almost like what the Bills are going through. If you have the same quarterback head coach combination and that the quarterback is good, it does make you feel like at some point you might want to see what it looks like with a different coach,
Yeah, I feel like it's very similar to Tomlin. It's the same situation where it's like, yes, you have the track record and the Super Bowls, but you've continuously hit this ceiling,
Yeah.
and there's really not much that we can do for you anymore. But I just feel like because of the track record, they'll never show them the door just because
Kind
of
of like
that.
Brian Cashman.
Yeah. Just that relationship that they already have because of the championships. It's hard to fire somebody like that. But yeah.
Yeah, so just interesting stuff. But yeah, that's really what's going on. With the NFL. And obviously excited as we inch closer, to the Super Bowl in New Orleans. But if we could switch gears and go to the world of Major League Baseball.
What a play! Stop it, Yep. And Alonso cracks one in the middle to win the ball game. Out of sight.
And it works at 100 miles an hour. 14 strikeout.
Drove deep to left field. There it goes. See ya.
All right. So just a couple Yankee and Met things I just wanted to talk about. Obviously, we still wait on Bregman and Alonso, and good segue anyway to Alonso. I know obviously you saw the press conference with the jersey reveal day.
Yep.
They had this past weekend, and Cohen's words about an exhausting negotiation and kind of calling out Boris. I just was kind of curious. I mean, what do you think now seeing that? Do you think that's a negotiation tactic, or do you think that things have gotten so tenuous that it appears more than likely he's not going to return?
Honestly, it's a great thing to bring up today because it looks like it was a negotiation tactic because I literally just read before the show that talks are now back on with Alonso.
Interesting. Okay.
So, I mean, it just goes on and off. I feel like it's tough because they're just not willing to crack on what he's asking for to be paid. So it's really just going to come down to really us and the Blue Jays at this point because I don't think anybody else really is pushing to talk to him. So yeah, I think his best bet is to come back and play for us, but that's because I'm biased. But yeah, it appears that was just a kind of a wake up call to Boris and Alonso to be like, okay, like, are we getting this done or are we not getting this done? But yeah.
I mean, it's he's got, completely out leveraged though. Cause just look, I mean, and I'm hearing too that their initial offer compared to what he was willing to accept was like $5 million, and they just will not budge from that, which seems like a David Stearns type of move.
Yeah.
But everyone just kind of talking about, with all the money that Cohen has, that like you're really going to draw a line in the sand over $5 million. It makes you feel like that you don't want him, but maybe it's just a thing where, like you said, that they know he doesn't want to go to Toronto. He doesn't have any other significant offers out there. So eventually he's going to bend. I mean, it's just obviously when you're dealing with Scott Boras, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think if he had any other agent, this deal would have been done a long time ago. But that's what Boris does. He's going to drive the price up. That's why he's so successful. But I just think like in Pete's case, like Stearns and Cohen have really made it apparent that they don't value him that much. Like they really like completely fine with moving on and just putting the young guys, changing things around in the infield and putting the young guys in. And honestly, like I wouldn't be opposed to that if it really came down to that. But I just think that, like you said, like their ability to just, show like we don't care. Like I feel like it's driving Pete the other way because they know that he wants to play for us. So they're willing to just play hardball until he bends.
And you don't think there's any part of them that is just getting frustrated with this, Renee, and that morning. And it's just going to be like, the hell with them. I just to prove a point, I'm not going to go back there. You don't see it getting to that point?
No, I could see it getting to that point, especially now, given, what he said about at the press conference and just overall, like I said, like, I just don't think that they value him like he thinks he's valued in terms of a price. So, that may drive him the other way to just be like, screw it, I'm out of here. But, I really just, especially now, like hearing the talks are back on, I just think eventually we're going to get a deal done because it's like I said, it's either us or Toronto, and I don't really think he wants to go to Toronto. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to go to Toronto. So just given they're building something over there, but they're really not in any shape to win now. Given the crop of talent in the MLB, these better teams. So I think his best bet is to come back and play for us, but it's just all about the price, and that's the problem. But Stearns and Cohen don't really seem to care. So
Yeah, it is interesting. Almost, I don't like have something that it reminds me of. Like it's something that I feel like I've never really seen before. So kind of interesting. But I think the reason that it's still lingering, kind of like what you're saying, speaks to the fact that Alonso, wants to return, but just wants to be valued what he feels like is fair.
yeah,
And then the other news, across town, and I don't know if you saw this, but I was actually listening to the Michael Kay show yesterday. They had Jeff Passan on, and he was kind of calling out Steinbrenner for saying the constant refusal to go over the third luxury tax, whatever it is, where you're taxed 110%. It just like it kind of almost, I think, without specifically saying it, that it was like just embarrassing and doesn't make sense, and it's holding them back, and it's just the obsession is just hurting the team. And this was after Hal says that most teams aren't able to do what the Dodgers are doing, that it's difficult, and that with luxury tax payments, they're going to spend over $500 million on the roster. And specifically, Steinbrenner said it's difficult for most of us owners to be able to do that kind of things that they're doing. We'll see if it pays off. And the Yankees payroll, I mean, is just under $303 million. But the Dodgers, I guess, before the tax payments are at like 388 or a little higher than that, 390. But what do you think about that? I mean, do you think who do you think's right in this situation?
I think that it's tough, and I think a lot of people are blaming the Dodgers for what's going on, and to me it's really hard to blame the Dodgers because they're just bending the rules to their advantage right now because they know they can. They make the most money, out of any franchise. The Yankees and the Dodgers really make the most money. So I think that they're, just bending the rules to their advantage, and it sucks, and it's not really great for baseball. But at the same time, it's like it's really nothing that any of the other owners could do. And if they really wanted to do something, they should band together and start to create a salary cap.
Yeah, which they're saying, I guess, after the 26th season, CBA's up, so that would be a big, negotiating point. And when I look at the Yankees, and I know we kind of talked about this extensively last time, I've been in favor of what they've done,
Yeah.
Post Soto. But do you feel like that there is somebody that like they could have had that because of this luxury tax thing didn't, and that's gonna like kind of cap how far they go? Because I don't know. I look at it and Tanner Scott would have been nice. I didn't want Bregman. Teoscar Hernandez didn't want to go there. I mean, I guess you could say Santander, but like with his kind of strikeout thing, and then the fact too that you don't want to take away playing time from Dominguez and some of the other younger Yankee players. I mean, do you think this offseason that it held them back from anything that you would have liked to see them do?
No, I think they're in the right spot right now. I think they have a great blend of young talent that they're trying to build and guys that they've signed that they feel have, the experience to go win a championship. I think that, given the fact that the Dodgers are doing what they're doing, I think they would have done that anyways because the Dodgers are just, they're the hottest team right now. So there's a lot of people want to go play for them. I would want to go play for them, so
Right.
I get it. And I just think everybody was in the Sasaki contest, but they really weren't because he was always going to go to the Dodgers. I just never felt like, he was really ever going to go to New York. So I think that's kind of the draw of the Dodgers too, is the fact that they just came off a championship that I just think that other teams are doing the best they can to sign who they can sign. But I think the Yankees are are just fine where they're at. I think that they're going to be able to compete, and they'll be all right post Soto for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're still third in the league in payroll. I guess it's just growing up. Obviously, you're used to them outspending everybody, but that was before these luxury tax days and just the extra tax that they've added on. But I think other bad contracts are coming off the books, and they really as the next couple of years go on, there's not going to be that much stuff that you wish you didn't have on the roster. So I think with that as a perspective. I think they're okay. And it's one of those things which I've said, time and time again, I am totally okay with relying on your farm system, which, as the years have gone on, they're doing more and more. And speaking to that, they did have a Boone on with BT and Sal yesterday on the Fan. And he was saying right now, and this could change, that they're going to go with Jazz at second, and then have a three-way competition between Peraza, Cabrera, and LeMahieu. And I was, talking to Matt about this, and I think, I was texting a couple of my other buddies, but I think that, they say LeMahieu, but I think deep down they know that he's done. And they're just kind of like hoping for a miracle. And even though we've seen them be stubborn and seen them bring back Josh Donaldson before ultimately, releasing him in the middle of a season, that they know the writing's on the wall there. So, I would love that platoon at third. And I think that'll work out well. But I mean, what do you think? I mean, because the numbers with LeMahieu have been so bad. He can't stay healthy. He always is near the top, grounding into double plays, and it's 2 years for $30 million total. I mean, maybe I don't even know. It's crazy to say this, but I don't even know if you said I'll eat $27 million and I just want anybody in your organization. I still don't know if anybody would do it, honestly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I just think he's damaged goods at this point. I was going to say the competition at third is between Peraza and Cabrera. It's not LeMahieu's just thrown in there because they still have faith in him based on his track record. But we talked about it last week a little bit. I just think that it just comes down to the grounding out and just the slump with hitting. I mean, especially this year, it was horrible. So I just feel like you gotta move forward. I don't even know if anybody would take him either. Even if you wanted to eat that contract, I just don't see it.
Yeah, so hopefully that they know that, and they're just, like I said, hoping for a miracle. Because I mean, what good are you if you can't run, your fielding isn't good anymore, and you're always hurt, and then you're not fast. So it just seems like it's a situation that is eventually going to end because of that. And I would like to see Peraza, seize that job, just because Oswaldo, even though I've always been kind of tempted to give him full at bat, see what he does, but he plays so many different positions. So I think he's so valuable on the bench. And then you'd have a lot of speed on the roster, with Jazz, with Dominguez, with Volpe, with Peraza. And the Yankees haven't had that much speed in a while. And then one other thing that Boone said too is they're thinking about Jazz or Dominguez at leadoff. Volpe, I was looking at the numbers yesterday when I was on JD's show, and like the splits just aren't good, career wise, in terms of him leading off. And they've tried that, each of the last 2 seasons. So it's interesting, but I kind of favor, because Dominguez as a rookie, I know, he's got some at bats, but they're very limited. I just feel like to put him right in the leadoff role, I mean, he could be great from the start, but you would think there's some adjustment period. I like the idea of him lower in the order, Jazz leading off, and then you have Judge batting second, because this will give Jazz, better pitches to hit. And then obviously, behind Judge, you probably have Bellinger, because they like to go lefty, righty, lefty. But what do you think about that? Who would you lead off between the two?
Definitely Jazz, just based on experience. I think that's probably for the better right now. If you want to change it, mid-season, if things aren't working out, you can always do that. But I think you definitely start with who you know. So yeah.
And we saw the impact, obviously, of Soto hitting. And I know, obviously, Jazz isn't Soto, but Soto hitting in front of Judge. So you would think just the pitches, because Jazz, I feel like that he has all the talent in the world. If he could just lay off those dumb pitches in the dirt. I think he has really big power, too. And not that I'm expecting him to hit 35 home runs, but I do think that is somewhere if he was really able to get the discipline, and you just hope the full spring training work with the coaches, will get him there. So we'll have to see, but I had to say I'm definitely pumped up for the season. I forgot if I asked you this, but do you do fantasy baseball?
I haven't in a while, but
Okay.
I might do it this year. Definitely, I'm gonna try and pull some people together.
Yeah. It honestly, it's my favorite one. Honestly, I mean, I know it's a grind, every day, but I'm doing basketball right now, and I hate it honestly because everybody's injured, everybody's sitting out. But at least baseball, there's not as many injuries. There's games all the time. The rosters are deep, and I feel like I know it better than any sport, so it just kind of makes it fun. If you're really into it,
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the thing that turns people away is like it's kind of a grind, but I think that kind of makes it fun, especially if you have good baseball knowledge. Basketball's tough, like you said, because injuries, load management, all that. So you're never really guaranteed your starting lineup week to week. But with baseball, guys try to play every day, so I think it's probably more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably the longest I've forgotten to go with the comments, but just so much good sports conversation here. But if we want to start there before we get to the Pebble Beach, and I know Michael Butka is in the building.
Yes, here, let me jump over. Michael Buckta says, good morning. Says, alert, I have a new crush on Belle from Beauty and the Beast. He also says, Barnes, what Disney movies have you seen?
And I was cracking up because because the text was so ridiculous, Michael. Like, I mean, a crush on a character, like, what are we really talking about? But he texted it to me, and Matt answers back, and he's like, yeah, I would, there's plenty of like real beautiful girls out there, Michael. I would kind of focus on them instead. And yeah, Disney movies, I don't even know, Michael. Like I said, I've never been a Disney guy. So you're probably asking the wrong person there.
Josh B says, my family, what's up? What a brutal play from the Rangers last night. Sheesh, happy hump day.
Yes. So good to have Josh B here. That was absolutely horrendous. And we were on Discord last night with him, Kev, JD, Donna. And we were hoping for a good game. And like I said, we'll get to it, but just didn't get off to the right foot. And anytime you get a shutout, it's not a good situation. That's for sure.
Matthew says, let's go, boys. Josh, what's up? Zachariah, what's going on? Says, take that beat ass hoodie off. This hoodie's very comfortable. I think I'll keep it on.
Oh man, that's funny.
LOL. Josh V says, Matty G, and says, all is well. Thanks.
So always good to hear, from Michael, from Josh, from Matthew. Yeah, like I said, a lot of good stuff to talk about, but let's switch gears to the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. That is going to start tomorrow, of course, in Pebble Beach, California. And this is an event that goes all the way back to 1937, was actually started as the Bing Crosby National Pro-Am. So it's always been a big event where it's changed by the years. I have to check. I want to say maybe they only do it for the first 2 rounds this year, but where, you have celebrities that get to play with the golfers. And because of the fact, too, that it is a signature event on the PGA Tour, the field is only 80 players. It used to be, I think, 135, 155, something like that. So that's reduced how many celebrities, you could have playing. And they also, I believe, have eliminated the Monterey Peninsula Monterey Peninsula Country Club from the rotation, because it used to be you'd play there, Spyglass, and Pebble. But I think now, it has switched to where, you just play the 2 courses, Spyglass, and of course the iconic Pebble Beach. But what a tournament. And I was speaking to, I think yesterday I was just mentioning this, but just how they always have to play it, this time of year. And the weather is just not good. I was looking at it now. The highs are like 59 for the 4 days of this tournament. Some rain in the forecast. Last year's event, was called after 3 rounds because of the intense rain. So I just think if they could somehow maneuver the schedule to move it back, that would be great. But I guess it has to do with, too, the celebrities that are going to be in the field and like the guys that are like baseball players. If you move it back more, they're not going to be able to play because they have to go to spring training. But I just think it's one of those things. It's like, I mean, this is the PGA Tour. I understand you have a good time at the Pro-Am. You're always going to get celebrities that want to play. I just think you should move it back a little bit. Even a couple of weeks makes a big difference because I'm always curious. I check the weather and it definitely gets like, more into like the 60s, more sun. I mean, nobody wants to watch a golf tournament and see everybody, with the knit caps on and the extra clothing. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So I think it takes away from it a little bit. Obviously, Pebble Beach, though, as a course, I mean, it's still magnificent as well as Spyglass. So definitely still a good watch. I just think that, it could be better maneuvered. So it'll be interesting to see in the future if they do, change its spot on the PGA Tour calendar. Just like last year, the purse this year is $20 million. The winner taking home $3.6 million. And that was up from 2023 when the purse was only $9 million and the winner getting 1.62. So the purse has grown a lot, winner's share. And if you look at the winners, last year was the first a range shortened event that only went 3 rounds since 2009 when DJ won. Wyndham Clark, 17 under par. I think it was lift, clean, and place the whole tournament. And that was, like I said, only a 3-day event. But between then and 09, it's been all 4 days. And if you look at the scoring here, very consistent. Rose in 23, 18 under. Hoagie at 19 under and 22. Daniel Berger at 18 under and 21. Nick Taylor at 19 under and 2020. Phil Mickelson winning his 5th in 2019 at 19 under par. So pretty good scoring. And the thing is, the length of these 2 courses are very short compared to the average PGA Tour course. Pebble Beach is only 68-16. And then Spyglass longer at 7,035. But some of these courses extend to, 76, 7,700 yards. So the size of the greens makes it more difficult. So that's why it's not always, a birdie barrage, but definitely just a true test, on the PGA Tour. And one I'm really looking forward to seeing. And obviously, when you have small greens, you think about short game, that's always important. So you would think, somebody who has a good short game will end up winning this tournament. And if you look at who's in the field, I mentioned this yesterday, Scotty Scheffler, back from the hand injury. You also have Roy McIlroy making his debut here as well. And then you have Colin Morikawa, Hideki Matsuyama, Ludwig Aubert, Wyndham Clark, Victor Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, Keegan Bradley, Patrick Cantley, Justin Thomas, Sahith Theegala, Robert McIntyre, Sungjae Im, Russell Henley, Billy Horschel, and Sepp Straka. That rounds out the top 20. So it's just tough given the weather being so unpredictable, the colder temperatures, how do you really, gauge for that? And obviously, it would be one of those things where, of course, Scotty's in the field, let's take him, and how he won. I think it was like 4 of the first 6 signature events last year, something ridiculous like that. And obviously Wyndham winning this one last year. So I think as talented as he is, it's tough for me to just take him right out of the gate. I think he will be playing well, but I just think, you got to give him some time to, really get into form where he can win. So who I look at here, I'm going to go just kind of a hunch here. But I'm going to go with Sungjae Im. I feel like he's one of the more underrated golfers on tour. And it did finish well, I believe, in the top 10 last week at the Farmers. And I've just overall thought he's had a lot of potential. Hasn't really maximized that potential. He definitely has had some up and down runs, but we've seen the talent is there when things are clicking on, all cylinders. So I'm going to say he's going to win this one, and I'll go right with the theme of what we've seen from this tournament. Let's call it 18 under par. So he'd be my winner there. And then if I had to go with a sleeper, One guy that I like that has actually won this tournament before and just played well, in general here would be Jordan Spieth. And he got in actually as a sponsor's exemption. And he's only 77th in the world now. So, it's been a while since we've seen peak Jordan. And at one time, everyone's saying, oh, he could be the next Tiger, kind of similar to Scotty, but has really struggled with inconsistencies. But I love the fact that his short game is strong. Off the tee, you worry about him. But with small greens, the bunker shots that he has, everybody thinks back to, when he won the Travelers Championship in 2017, chipping in. Shots like that are just ridiculous. So he's due as well. And it would be a story, him coming here as a sponsor's exemption, former champ back in 2017, getting the job done. So that would be my winner and sleeper. I know you haven't been up on the golf recently, Zach, but any type of thought here about who's going to win this tournament?
I have not been doing any research, but I do want to get into golf more this year, kind of watch it more consistently. I feel like I watch the big tournaments, like
Right.
I'll watch the Open, I'll watch the Masters, but definitely on a week-to-week basis, I want to get into it a little more. So I'll definitely start tuning in. I was watching a little bit of the indoor league here and there as well. I think that was kind of a fun change for them as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the actual tour. I'd like to watch.
And I don't know if it's just because I know the start was delayed because there was damage to the arena or whatever. But my thing with the indoor league is I think it's good, but why can't we just do it during the fall season? I just feel like to do it during the PGA Tour season. I know it's not on those days,
Yeah.
but I just feel like it's too much, and it's like it would just create more entertainment midweek, when there's no golf or
Yeah.
these fall tournaments that no one's playing in.
Yeah, I was kind of under the impression that it was gonna like kind of just be like a short little preview, and then they were gonna like cut it once the PGA was kind of in full swing. But yeah, I think like moving it to the fall would be better because it just makes sense. I don't know why they would have it compete with. Not that it is competing, but it is kind of it's just a lot, especially for even though they're it's a golf sim, it's still a lot to on the players. So yeah.
Yeah, and one thing though that I have to say that I do like is how they have the real green there. Like that, I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's what's entertaining. That's what makes it more entertaining. Just in terms of like the sim is fine for driving and getting to the green, but once you're on the green, I really enjoy that they add like the human element of it, and they have you line up your putt and everything, and just like I kind of like the team aspect of it too, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely it's a fun and entertaining like change because it's a little bit more casual, obviously. So I think that it could definitely pull like more casual fans in, if that's the goal. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how it like develops going forward if they're really going to stick with it because I know they put a lot of money into it. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. I guess it with the playoffs, it's gonna wrap up in late March. So
Okay.
kind of a lead up to the Masters. Obviously, you'll have the players mixed in there.
Yeah.
That's really like the biggest tournament that's coming up. And I always like next week's, of course, a Waste Management Open, but just in terms of tournaments with that elite prestige, the players, of course, would be one next up, and obviously Scotty won that one last year. I did see we got a couple more comments.
Yes, I think so. I can jump over. Michael Theophil says Bing Crosby legend. Patty Bailey says this just seems like the start of a Berg run. Get your Masters futures in.
And I think Ludwig Aubert, one of the most talented golfers, and I kind of think too. We saw him have some runs last year. Like once he gets one, I think his confidence is gonna go way up. And I mean, he's still so young. I think we're gonna see him go on a little run here.
And Matthew Gabriel says Bing Crosby, what a voice, all-time classic.
Yeah. Absolutely iconic, as our good friend Michael Butka would say. And then let's see. I just wanted to check out here what we have for the TV coverage. I believe this is going to be on CBS as well. Let's see what we got here. Cool Beach TV coverage. So, all right, let's see. So, obviously, coverage is going to start tomorrow. We're going to have 3 to 7 on Golf Channel tomorrow and Friday. Saturday, 1 to 3 on golf. Sunday, 1 and 3 on golf, and then 3 to 7 on CBS. Saturday, 3 to 6:30 on CBS on Sunday. And then you also have PGA Tour live coverage starting at 11:30 Thursday to Saturday. And then starting Sunday at 11. So a lot of viewing opportunities here. This is one that I'll definitely check out, and I'm just hoping that the weather ends up maybe being better than anticipated. It would be something eventually to play that course. I was looking it up when I was researching this tournament, and the greens fees now are $1,000.
Oh my God.
So that's crazy. But it's just one of those things, supply and demand. But I can just imagine, think about like the cold, the wind being like right next to the ocean. I mean, it must be so difficult to play. Like, I don't even know if I would break 150 playing from the forward tees.
Yeah. There's kind of like an element of golf where I've said in the past, I enjoy playing in the fall and stuff, but like once it gets to that point where it's just unenjoyable, it's like I'm paying all this money to be out here,
Oh yeah.
It's not worth it when it starts to get nasty like that. So
yeah. Me and Matt were just talking about yesterday, pumped for this season. I mean, what makes golf is the weather, especially the perfect weather, 70s, light breeze, the sun. It's just great to be outside. So that's definitely ideal golf weather. Have you done a simulator or anything this winter?
I did last winter. I haven't this winter, but I was talking to a few friends and we want to get down to one. There is one, I think there's one Newtown.
Okay, yeah, I know
there.
there's one in Monroe too.
Monroe, Newtown
I think there is,
area.
Newtown. And they're just popping up everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess it depends where you go, but I know the one that I've been to a few times in Stanford, like the pricing is just like crazy, and especially it's like, obviously, okay, you don't have to drink when you go there, but it's just kind of part of like the environment. But it's like, with drinks, I mean, you're spending over, $100 easily. It's like I could have played like a nice course instead. But that's why I've always said if there was some bulk deal, I would probably do it all the time during the winter. But without that, I've kind of like probably what you're saying, like just limiting it to a couple times. But the price tag definitely steers some people away. And then Patty Bailey also says the worst part about fall golf is the leaves. Nothing worse than drilling a fairway and then not finding shit. And that's absolutely correct. Nothing more frustrating too. How are you typically, like, fall aside, but just in general with finding your ball? Do you ever kind of like have moments? 'Cause I know it's happened to me where I kind of like bug out and it's like seems like it should be so obvious where it is, and I can't find it, and then my friend will be like, it's right there.
Yeah, no, I've had multiple fall golf sessions where the ball is just lost for good.
Yeah,
and it sucks because like I really don't bring a ton of golf balls because they're expensive. Like you don't want to burn through them, but in the fall it's like it's almost a guarantee you're gonna burn through them because you can't find them.
In all my years of golfing, going on 20 plus years, I've actually very rarely actually bought golf balls. I always just find them in the woods. But it is tempting because sometimes, you randomly get a gift card to Golf Galaxy, buy them, and it's nice, but they go so quick. And then it just feels like, wait, so why did I do this again?
Yeah, exactly. And like, honestly, like my dad is a big golfer, so he hooks me up, which is nice because honestly, like, and we get them in bulk. Like we'll just order, like, even if they're like cheaper, it's better because it's like, I don't know, I'm still like a newer golfer. So it's not like, to me, if I find a nice ball on the course, it's nice. I'll just pick it up, throw it in my bag. But I don't need super expensive stuff, especially if I'm going to shank it in the woods. I mean?
Because at this point, isn't Pro V for 3 balls like over $20?
Yeah, something like that. It's just ridiculous. Like,
that's crazy. No, but I agree with that. And you do find some good balls in the woods sometimes.
Yeah.
My problem is, so I always get kind of like obsessive with it, and then I'll have like half the season where my legs are just so cut up from the prickers and everything. But it is addicting. Like once you get in there, but I can get this one, I can get this one, and like you want to just keep going, and it's like there's no like stop point. But sometimes I've pulled like 40, 50 balls like in a round. So that's typically what I do. Patty also says, dude, 100%. And I feel like Will Ferrell pretending to be blind in Anchorman too. It definitely gets tough. to find your ball sometimes, that's for sure. But of course, looking forward to getting out on the course again this season. But if we could go now to the world of the National Hockey League.
Here he comes. McDavid shoots. Top shelf. He scores. Captain with the overtime winner. That's the middle. It's a world-class hit right here. Tomsky stepping. Rink Washington made the full split save.
Are you kidding me?
Turn. Side of the net. Between the legs and they score. Filthy. David Pastrnak. The silver trophy to the Golden Knights.
All right, so a tough night at the Garden last night. Rangers getting shut out 4-0. And this is in the midst of a stretch where they had 15 goals in 3 games. So you felt like, okay, offense is back on track. That was, as me and Tony would say, the bugaboo, early in the season as to why they were losing so many games. So, of course, you get a shutout, no offense last night. And I just thought it was also back to what we've seen where, there's too much being tentative. Also, it just felt like the time of possession, was strongly favoring Carolina, which is obviously, not how you win games here. So that was kind of tough. And yeah, I just think, I liked what they were doing the previous 3 games, the more aggressive nature. Who cares if the shot is far out? Just take it. You never know, what will happen. I just think the more aggressive, the better on offense. And for whatever reason, too, there's been this thing, and they did it the previous game against Colorado, of giving up these early goals. And I was talking about this on Discord last night, with Josh and JD and Kev and Donna. But it's just so deflating when you let up a goal in the first period. And I know it's like, I always say it myself, and that's why I don't get tight. Yankees giving up a home run first inning. Obviously, it's annoying, but I always say, well, I mean, did you really expect to win 1-0? You can't play games like that. But for hockey, it's different. Obviously, a lot less scoring. So felt a little deflating there. Obviously, they played well the rest of that period. They don't let up a goal. But then again, they give up a goal. This time at the end of the period, it's Svechnikov again, or Svechnikov. Always tough with these hockey pronunciations. But his 17th of the year. And there was only 30 seconds remaining in the second period. So an absolute dagger, on a night where you're struggling to get any type of offense, to give up a goal at beginning of the first period and then the end of the second, just doesn't project well. And then that is compiled, and that got to the point where I just ended up turning off the game because the first 2.5 minutes of the third period, they give up an Aho goal, his 17th, and then Seth Jarvis, about a minute and a half later, his 19th. And that was it. From that point on, you knew that it was over. So kind of tough. You had been, one of the hottest teams in the league. And you lose back-to-back games. And the other one was a tough game where you're right there, give up a goal late. So just these technique things just need to be so much better. And we've talked about adding another defenseman, maybe getting rid of Keandre Miller. I think that would be a really good thing. And overall, I still feel good because we've seen so much good play over the past few weeks. So it's not, it's not like it's a complete bug out situation. But at the same time, because of how you've started this year, you're still 24, 22, and 4. And then you also look at upcoming schedule, 2 of the next 3 against Boston, Vegas sandwiched in between. And then, it does get a little easier after that because, you do play Pittsburgh. That's the game I'm going to be at a week from Friday. So really excited for that. You get Columbus, Buffalo, Pittsburgh again. The Islanders, who have started to heat up, rivalry game, you never know. And then your Toronto, Nashville, and the Islanders again before the Capitals. And JD said he was going to that game. Ovechkin, he'll have to be on a heater, but there's a chance he could be in play for the record there, which would be huge. But it's just a competitive Eastern Conference. Time is of the essence. So you have to just win as many games as possible. And you're going to have to win games against tough teams like the Hurricanes and the Avalanche, something that you failed to do the last two games. So I think the couple days off will be good, kind of reset. I think we had a tight game with Boston last time out. And, they're actually in the first wildcard position at 56 points, Tampa in second at 55. So Rangers 3 points behind Tampa at 52, with Columbus at 55, Detroit at 53, and Montreal at 53, all ahead of the Rangers. So not only is it tight, but there's a ton of teams in the mix. So there really isn't a margin for error, and it's just, you have to play your best hockey. And I think overall, this game, we hope can just be a side note, and they're going to get back to playing the way that they had played the last couple of weeks. And I think the Miller trade is still a possibility. We'll see, if that happens. But, for now, we got to just work with the guys, that we have. And I'm fully expecting, nothing but, their best foot forward come on, I guess it'll be Friday. Actually just want to double check that game is Friday. So, cause today's the 29th, or that should be Friday. Friday, the 1st, right? Let me just look at my calendar here. Yeah, so that is going, oh no, that's going to be Saturday. Okay. So Saturday, is the Bruins game. So actually a decent amount of time off here. But good to be well rested for that one. And the Bruins have been interesting, kind of almost a similar team, being really, inconsistent this year. Obviously, we know about Pasternak. And the last time they played, on the 2nd of this month, Rangers won 2-1. And historically, we've seen these tight games, between the two teams. So I would expect nothing the less here. And you are going to be in Boston for this one. So obviously, maybe a little hostile crowd there. But I fully expect the Rangers to step up and win that game. But just to keep in mind that you can't have many more nights like this, because time is going to run out. Fortunately, despite all these struggles and inconsistencies, a couple points, 3 points behind a wild card spot isn't a horrible place to be, given what they've had to endure. So going to be interesting to see how, that situation plays itself out. And when you look at, the rest of the league yesterday, at the other scores here, the Sabres, that was a surprise. And speaking of the Bruins, they fall 7-2. Tage Thompson with the hat trick. So we always predict these hat tricks. And not only did he have one, but his teammate did as well. So 2 hat tricks in one game, something that you really never see. And I'm sure, obviously, it's happened many times before. But JJ Peterka, I believe that's how you say it, also had a hat trick. So Boston 9-14-3 away from home there. So not a great record. Sabres improved to 19-26-5. That was definitely a surprise. But Boston has shown us they could be inconsistent. One thing that wasn't a surprise, and we've talked about how much we like the Canadiens, but the Jets have proven to be one of the top teams in the league this year, picking up their 35th victory of the season, 4-1 over the Canadiens. And Connor had a 2 goals in this one for the Jets. So they remain a powerhouse in the league this year. And Connor Hellebuck continues that outstanding season, 24 of 25 in net. The Canadiens, one of the teams that we're battling with for the wild card, fall to 24-21-5. A surprise, something that I didn't even consider for 1 second. I guess it's true. The Lightning are going through something right now. They fall 4-1 to the Blackhawks at home. So a shocking loss there. Soderblom 34-35 in net, and Connor Bedard finding the score sheet in this one. And we were talking about this with JD yesterday as well. You would think that he's getting frustrated there, and his production, I think, has been capped because of how inconsistent his teammates are. He had his 14th goal of the year, but he has the potential to be way better than the way he's been playing. So kind of just be interesting to see how they shape that roster. All of a sudden, the Islanders are on fire. A 5-2 home run over the Avalanche. Sorokin, 30 of 32 in net, and they got 2 goals and 1 assist from Holmstrom. Anders Lee has also been on a hot streak recently, a goal and an assist. So they're 22, 20, and 7. So again, a team in the neighborhood of us for the wild card. Avalanche fall to 29, 21, and 2. The Capitals continue their hot play here, 34, 11, and 5 after a 3-1 victory in Calgary. Logan Thompson, who just got the contract extension, 32 of 33 in net. And you also saw Pierre-Luc Dubois with his 11th, Strome with his 13th, and Profos with his 21st. So it's been so impressive. Washington this year has really shown what a strong team they are. Hot in the beginning of the season with Ovechkin. He breaks the leg, misses a bunch of games. They remain hot. Now he's back, and even on the games that he doesn't score, it seems like they've been winning most of the time, which is definitely impressive. Wyatt Johnson, the hero in Vegas here, as he scores in overtime to lift the Stars to a 4-3 victory. He also had a hat trick, so 3 hat tricks yesterday. I definitely haven't seen that since we've been going over the hockey. So it's kind of crazy to see that, but tight game. So Vegas, only their 6th home loss of the year. So 31, 15, and 5 overall. Stars improved to 32, 17, and 1. And then last game of the night, definitely not a surprise. The Ducks, we've seen them struggle to beat the good teams, but the teams kind of more on their level, or, dare we say mediocre teams, they've been able to compete with. So they win this game 6-4 here. Troy Terry with his 16th, and then Frankie V, an empty netter at the end of the game, his 14th. So the Ducks improved to 21, 23, and 6. Seattle 22, 27, and 3. And I mentioned yesterday when we were previewing this game, going to be interesting to see what the two teams do. Obviously Seattle is buried. The Ducks are kind of hanging around where maybe they want to see, before doing, a sell-off, if they can kind of hang in here. But it'll be interesting to see once we get to that trade deadline in early March. So that was it for the scores last night. And then, you look ahead to tonight, 5 games on the schedule. And then we do have a national doubleheader between the Flyers and the Devils on TNT, and that game will be followed by the Penguins playing in Utah against the hockey club there. So obviously the Penguins, a team that everyone's expecting to do some type of sell-off, and maybe not necessarily Crosby or Malkin or Letang, but the other guys on the team, and that effort to move Erik Karlsson's contract. Maybe they consider moving Raquel as well, but it does feel like there needs to be some type of refreshing done in Pittsburgh, because it's been the same type of results where it went from barely making the playoffs, losing the first round, and now last year not making the playoffs, this year being under 500. So obviously the trajectory, just isn't good there. So it will be interesting to see what moves they make and who they're going to make available come the trade deadline. But if we could do, Zach, a Wednesday frozen frenzy. All right, so we are starting in Canada, as Tony would say, the Scotiabank Arena, Toronto, Ontario. The Maple Leafs coming to this game 30, 18, and 2, 19 and 10 at home. They are hosting the Minnesota Wild, 29, 17, and 4, 18, 5, and 3, away from Minnesota. And you look at this game, Toronto, minus 170 on the money line. Minnesota, plus 145. Minnesota, obviously playing last night. Toronto, you look at how they've played recently. They've lost their last 2 games. Minnesota has won their last 2 games, but I just kind of feel like on a back-to-back and on the heels of Toronto just not playing their best game, it feels like they're going to have a bounce-back performance. Only 2 goals the last 2 games. So I'm going to say this is a game where total instead of 5.5. I like the over easily here. I'm going to say that they get Austin Matthews with 2 goals and an assist. Also, Mitch Marner finding the back of the net as well. So I'm forecasting a 5-3 victory here for the Maple Leafs. So give me Toronto in the over for the first game of the night. Number two, Panthers hosting the Kings. And the Kings, obviously, last time out, blowing a 2-0 lead to the Red Wings. And overall have lost 4 out of 5. The Panthers have lost 2 out of 3. Looking at what they've done this year, definitely been very up and down, but 13-9-2 at home. Kings mediocre, 11-12-5. So I like the Panthers here. I just think better team, despite maybe their record not reflecting how good we feel they can be as the defending Stanley Cup champions. But I'm going to say they're going to win this one, get the scoring going back again. I'm going to say they win this game 5-2. So give me the Panthers and the over for pick number 2. Number 3 here. This is our national game, the first of the doubleheader. Devils hosting the Flyers. Devils coming to this game 28-18-6. Flyers 23-22-6. New Jersey -185. We know that Markstrom's out. Philly plus 155 and have been kind of hanging in there again in that muddled mix of teams outside looking in for that second wild card spot in the East. Total set at 5.5. The Flyers have won the first 2 of this series. And overall, the Flyers have lost 2 other past 3 games. The last time they played, they beat the Devils 4-2. But I think the Devils, despite the injuries, I think are too good to lose 3 of the first 4 matchups with the Flyers this year. So I think they get the job done here. Give me Jack Hughes with a hat trick. After 3 last night, we get 1 tonight in New Jersey. But I'm going to say the Devils win this game. Let's go 6-3. So give me the Devils in the over. All right, so moving along here. 4th of 5 games today. The Predators hosting the Canucks. Nashville has been playing better hockey after a terrible start, but still very underwhelming with a lot of veterans there. 18-23-7, expected to be an active team at the trade deadline. Hosting the Canucks, Quinn Hughes. He's been playing well for the Canucks this year. 14 goals as a defenseman. Canucks have won their last 2. Preds have won 4 out of 5. And the total is set at 5.5. I'm going to say this is an under game. I know they're going all over, but I think the Canucks, really hold Nashville at bay here. I'm going to say 3-1. Hughes with 2 goals and an assist. But give me the Canucks in the under in the 5th and final game of the night in Utah. The Hockey Club hosting the Penguins. Utah -135 on the money line. Pittsburgh plus 155. We talked about the struggles of Pittsburgh, really just struggling to find any type of consistency here. And the last time these 2 teams played all the way back on the 23rd of November, Hockey Club wins 6-1. So this is the second and final meeting between the 2 teams. But the way Pittsburgh is playing, losing, the last 3 games here, hard to have confidence in them. I know Utah's lost the last 2, won their previous 3. But give me Utah. I think, they've hung around this year after, struggling for so many years as the Coyotes. The move to Utah seems to have done them well. So I think they win this game 3-1. Give me 2 goals and an assist for Keller. Vizmelka, I would say, is going to save 28 of 29 in net. So give me Utah in the under. And just like that, that is your Wednesday Frozen Frenzy. So a little bit of a 5-pack there. Some national games for everybody that doesn't have ESPN Plus. So should be some good hockey. And what now it is time to do is going to be a Panini pull. And I don't know if you saw yesterday, Zach, but we did the baseball yesterday. We're going to do the football today. We pulled a George Lombard card. He's the 19-year-old shortstop prospect for the Yankees. Oh, nice. 2023 pick. So I was riled about that. Yeah. And most of these cards recently for the other sports, because we did, the hockey picks, they have been just active players or legends. But for whatever reason, the baseball is the prospects. But that's exciting. That's where you can really get, value. Yeah. So I'm excited about it. And it's interesting, too. These football cards have 15 cards per pack. So it's a lot of pulls. Oh, nice. The baseball, I think, only has 5. So it just makes it kind of interesting. Overall, what would you say, you've preferred to, have the most in terms of sports cards? Which ones have been your favorite over the years?
When I was younger, I collected a lot of baseball cards because
Yeah, me
I
too.
just think that that's like the most popular one for sure, just because of the value that you may find. But it's also just really fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then doing it with this format is great. Live on the show, and we've got some good football cards. And like I said, I was happy with the pool yesterday. So let's see what we have here for another Panini pool. So we are going to get started here in Pittsburgh. And definitely somebody who represents that steel curtain attitude, one of the best defensive players in the game. This is a big pull here. TJ Watt, multiple-time defensive player of the year, multiple-time 20-sack player. So an absolute legend. So a good way to start here in our first of 15. And speaking of legends, the Hall of Fame left tackle, he'll get inducted once his playing days are over from the 49ers, Trent Williams. So another legendary player, all-pro player. You love to see that. And speaking of legendary players, his career ended way sooner than many expected, but is still an all-time great. From the Detroit Lions, number 20, Barry Sanders. So a good pick there. I like how they mix in the legends. Moving along here, talented cornerback who struggled with injuries on the Patriots, number 6, Christian Gonzalez. We know the ability is there for the former number 1 pick. Speaking of former number 1 picks, from the Rams and considering retirement, we'll see if he comes back, Matthew Stafford. So another good one there. Obviously the Super Bowl champ. And speaking of legends, speaking of Hall of Fame players, number 54 from the Miami Dolphins, Zach Thomas. So another good pick there as we move on to number 7. A little Saints spiel here for Zach. Number 94, Cam Jordan. So always a good card to have there, the multiple-time Pro Bowler. And here's a legendary one. We know this is from a while ago because he has in his picture here the single bar face mask from the Cardinals, Roger Werhele. And it looks like, he played his entire 14-year career, played against Roger Staubach, and they were referred to as the St. Louis Cardinals, showing how long ago it actually was. And then this is kind of an interesting card, a Road to the Super Bowl card, a guy who was big for the Chiefs last year, unfortunately has missed the entire season pretty much this year due to an early ACL injury, Rashee Rice. So this is a cool one, and they have the box score of when they defeated the Dolphins in that wildcard game last year, 26-7. The frozen beers and water bottles, Reed's frozen mustache. So, of course, good times. And then a very talented rookie here from the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. So, good pull there. Love to see that. Another rookie, a guy who didn't get a lot of run, but we feel like future potential could be good. Kind of buried on the depth chart because of how good Kyron Williams is. Number 22, Blake Cora. So, another Ram here. And let's see, we have 4 cards remaining. We're going to go with the legendary Bills player from the heyday of Jim Kelly, number 83, the wide receiver, Andre Reed. So another veteran classic card there. And speaking of veteran classic cards, the Hall of Famer from the Cincinnati Bengals, the offensive lineman, number 78, Anthony Munoz. So a good card to get there. Down to our final 2, a pair of running backs here from the Cleveland Browns, number 34, Jerome Ford. And then the last card here in our 15-pack from the Denver Broncos, Jaleel McLaughlin. So here we are, another Panini pack pool. But I have to say, Zach, obviously, you had some of the guys that maybe aren't as well known, but a ton of legends there. TJ Watt, Trent Williams, Barry Sanders, Matthew Stafford, Cam Jordan, Zach Thomas. Those are all great cards. Andre Reed as well. Yeah. And then the fact you get a Bo Nix rookie card, not too shabby.
Yeah, not too bad. I liked how they mixed it up with the legends. I thought it was going to be more just current players. But yeah, dude, that's really cool.
And it's interesting for whatever reason. I don't know how it was for you. But I never used to collect football cards for whatever reason when I was growing up.
Yeah, like that's why I said baseball, because I just don't feel like these were like the popular option. But it is really cool. I've always seen them around, but you never jump into them. But they're pretty cool. I like these especially, like how they mix it up.
Yeah. And Panini has just really taken over, the trading card market.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. That's kind of, I think, brought back some excitement to the card world because it feels like it was almost kind of dead for a while.
Yeah.
But once these Paninis and these prison cards, and there's so much that I still am kind of getting up to speed on.
Yeah.
But it is definitely exciting. It's another element for sure. And especially, once you get back into it, it does almost get like addicting in a way.
Yeah, because also you're trying to find that value. So that
Right.
I think that's the fun part of it too. Is just keep buying packs and see what you can find.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll do another baseball pack tomorrow. And then really, other than that, just wanted to mention, and I know we're going back a little bit here because I guess the game was on Tuesday. What are your thoughts on yet another loss for the UConn Huskies there to Xavier? We're up 1 at the half, but just the poor execution, the easy missed shots, obviously Hurley going nuts. I mean, what do you think's going on there?
I did not catch the game. Was this the game where Hurley was like screaming at the ref saying I'm the best?
No,
coach?
that was the previous
Oh, that
game.
was the previous.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah, over the weekend.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
on Saturday.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch the game, but based on what my friends were saying, nobody was really happy about the outcome, obviously. Like I said, and we talked about it last week, I think, it's not a question that they'll be in the tournament. It's just really tough when you keep losing these opponents that you should be beating. You have a lot of expectations on you, especially coming off of the 2 championships. So,
and this was Saturday actually. So it was the game before against Georgetown. I think you're talking about.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, 76-72 Xavier.
Yes.
UConn's 6th loss of the season, but just feels like obviously I think preseason they were maybe been like 2. Now they're 25, and they had only 3 losses last year. They've doubled that up already. Plus, they have to play 4 games combined against Marquette and St. John's.
Yeah, it's not going to get any easier, and we talked about that last week as well. The schedule upcoming, and it's going to be tough. I mean, because they keep climbing the rankings, and UConn keeps sinking, and it sucks. But I think it's really showing that they lost a lot of key players, and they're kind of going through growing pains right now, and they still have great talent, but it's definitely going to take a little bit of a rebuild, and Hurley to kind of have patience, which I know is not really his strong suit.
No.
But yeah, it's looking like it's going to take some time to get back to where they were, but I still think that they're going to make the tournament for sure.
Yeah, I think so too, but it just feels like as the year goes on, start of the year, I mean, you would say, okay, lock for a top 3 seed. Now we're kind of getting to like the end of the single digits where it's like you're thinking 7, 8, or 9 potentially. But I think McNeely coming back will be big. But I think also the thing is, the rest of the team needs to step up as well. But do you think it's kind of a mix as to why they've struggled? Like a combination of him. I mean, obviously they already had the 3 losses in Maui before his injury, but what we've seen recently, where struggling with the tough teams, going to overtime with Butler. Do you think it's kind of a mix of both?
Yeah, I just think that that's a part of it, and I just think, like I said, the depth isn't really quite there, just based on who they've lost. So to go up against these teams, it's games that you would have been winning in a pretty routine way. It's not the same anymore. So these teams are going to compete for sure, especially in the Big East. Even teams who are kind of lower in the rankings of the Big East, they're still going to give you a tough matchup because that's just how it is. They know these teams, they play them often. So.
And speaking of that, they actually are hosting DePaul tonight at the XL Center, 13.5-point favorites. If you were going to wager on that one, what side would you go with?
I don't think I would take the UConn spread. Just given the fact that how they've been playing, I think it'll be a lot closer than 14 points. So,
and it's interesting. Last time they won by 13, but that was actually the game that McNeely got injured in. So that was all the way back on the 1st of this month. But yeah, I just think they'll probably come close to covering, but I'm thinking more, instead of 13.5, like kind of like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And wouldn't be surprised close early, and then maybe they hit some threes down the stretch to kind of, extend that lead a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely wouldn't take the spread just based on what's been going on, but I would still take them to win.
Yeah,
If you wanted to go down and buy points if you wanted to, but I wouldn't take 13.
Yeah, it just seems very very high. Did you also see, and I forgot to mention this, I think this probably happened, I think would have been Monday night, where Arizona beat Iowa State and they're unranked, and they hit the half court shot at the buzzer to send it to overtime, and then blew them out by like 8 or 9 in overtime.
Yeah, that was wild.
And that was Caleb Love, who used to play on UNC.
Yes, he transferred from North Carolina. Yeah, I didn't catch the game, but I kind of caught some of the highlights of overtime and just the buzzer beater leading up to it. That was insane. I have a lot of friends who are like very big college basketball guys, and my group chat was like blowing up because of it. But yeah, that was pretty awesome, and to see him transfer and start to pick up speed there for sure.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And also too, and I as the season progresses, are definitely going to do a better job of watching the other games, other than UConn. But just from what you've seen this year. And we saw Auburn, win that big game against Tennessee.
Yeah.
But does it feel as wide open as ever for you, like this year, in terms of like teams that have the capability of winning it all?
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely more than last year, because I feel like, I don't know. I think UConn coming off of that championship, it was still a tough road to get back, but they were still, to me, the best team that was in the running. So I just think like this year, it's definitely more spread out a little bit. And I think Auburn, honestly, if I had to pick a team, I think Auburn is really, the most tested and probably one of the best teams that has a chance. But yeah.
Yeah, and their only loss this season coming against a Duke, but they've beaten some impressive teams here: Houston, Ohio, Iowa State, North Carolina, Purdue, Mississippi State, Georgia, and then that win over Tennessee. I mean, I've almost never seen, and I don't know how the ranks have changed since they played them, but I've never almost seen that many ranked wins. And then the fact too that there's still a decent amount of games on the schedule. Like they've played a gauntlet. I guess it speaks to how well the SEC is playing this year.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think the SEC has a good handful of teams that are. It kind of feels like it did, a couple of years ago again, where we're getting the swing of talent back in the SEC with basketball, and it's always there, but I just think there's a good handful of teams now that are really competitive. So
yeah, absolutely. So kind of interesting, and Duke, you always expect to be in the mix. Cooper Flagg, obviously he's the well-known number one recruit there. So going to be interesting, and I think as always, just an outstanding March Madness tournament. I always look forward to it, and I really get really locked in once even the conference tournaments start.
Yeah,
those are always good, and it's funny too because, like I said, it's just like for whatever reason, I don't know if you feel like this, but like the other teams besides these like top 10 matchups, the other games, unless it's your team, like don't seem that appealing. But then for some reason, once the conference tournaments start, and then specifically the NCAA, you feel like you need to watch every game. Like you don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, because I just think like I already respect college basketball because I feel like the effort is there already in the regular season. It blows the NBA out of the water in terms of, how hard these guys play. And then you get into conference play, it just gets stepped up a notch again. So yeah, it's really fun to just follow these teams from their journey in their conference tournaments all the way up to the actual tournament to see, who can make a run. So yeah.
And then I was just thinking about this last thing. I know we don't usually, talk too much NBA. Obviously, the Knicks look like they're going to be hosting the Nuggets tonight, so that's an important game. They've been playing well, 31-16. But what do you think about Butler? I heard, I don't know if it was earlier this morning on Twitter, that maybe the Warriors are going to trade for him. I mean, he's been suspended 3 times. I mean, just kind of a messy situation there.
Yeah.
And then some people were saying, oh, like don't let him go to the Warriors or the Bucks. But I think at this point, we're almost overvaluing Jimmy Butler just because of like the stuff that he's pulled with the attitude, the fact that he's older. Not to say that he's not still a good player, but like, do you think he's like the attractive target for these teams that maybe he was like 5 years ago that he is now? Or do you think like the attitude concerns have to be, concerning for prospective teams?
I think that the attitude concerns are definitely there. I think a lot of people are kind of like they have tunnel vision and they're only looking at what's going on right now. But he's done this with multiple teams. He's left multiple teams in flames, so this is nothing new for Jimmy. But I think he can still, if put in the right situation, he could be a great piece, especially with the Warriors, because I think that that's been their problem is that that bottom tier of the West is pretty close. In terms of records. But if they could get him, maybe they could start to separate and climb the ladder a little bit more. But yeah, I think the attitude problem is certainly there. And it really just comes down to he doesn't want to be there. He hasn't wanted to be there for quite a while. And messing with Pat Riley is a bad idea. He doesn't take kindly to this type of behavior, I would say. So I just think that yeah, I mean, he wants to leave, so they gotta find something for him and move him, because it's just he's not coming back. He's not going to play for them. So
yeah. So be interesting to see what happens, and maybe do the Knicks make a move as well? I know Mitch back at some point, but they want to get another big in there sooner to kind of help them out, because we've talked all season about them being top heavy. So it'll be interesting to see. But a lot of stuff going on. And that's really where we're at. But I have to say, another great show. Great to have you back, Zach.
Thank you.
And great to hear from everybody today. And we encourage everybody to continue to comment, like, and subscribe. All of the archives on the YouTube page, Tony, Michael, Renee, and Jane in costume, the merch at downtimetv.com. We want everybody to enjoy the day, enjoy the games, and we will see you mañana.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do. Thanks again.